Awesome. So we're live. Hello, fans and podcast listeners. This is the second, number 2 episode of the Two Druggists with an S, the Two Druggists podcast. My name's Ben. You could call me Dr. Ben if you have respect for me. And we have Matt, or Dr. Matt, if you have respect for him.
I definitely go with the Dr. Matt.
Yeah. And today we're going to, just talk about whatever. Last episode, we covered ACE inhibitors, if you watched that one, or ACE Is. Today, we'll be talking about a similar drug, the ARBs, or ARBs, the angiotensin receptor blockers. What do you think about that, Matt?
Well, I think the big thing that our pharmacy student and maybe medical student listeners, if we really get big time, should really remember is that, the ACEs blocked the converting enzyme for angiotensin. The ARBs blocked the receptor that modulates smooth muscle and vasoconstriction.
So it blocks the receptor where the angiotensin II would bind to.
Yes.
Okay. So they work similarly, but not exactly.
Right. We're in the same metabolic pathway, but we have a different target. And you and I both know that that's the way to get drugs on the market. Find a pathway and find all of the vulnerabilities.
Even if you can rip off a pathway, if you can get your way in there, you got a drug and a drug design. Right. And that's what the ARB is.
That's exactly right. And our listeners should remember there's angiotensin receptor 1 and angiotensin receptor 2. And receptor 1 is the one that is in the other areas of the body, not the vasculature, because we don't want to block angiotensin 1. That has other deleterious effects.
It's the double, the potent vasoconstrictor that gets you in the arterioles and everything else in the periphery.
I vaguely remember a passage in the pharmacy books about renin upregulating angiotensin 1, causing vasoconstriction, and that's really bad for those patients that have heart failure.
Right. Yeah, and that, I'll be honest with you, that sort of thing is foggy to me, but it's kind of coming back now that you bring that up.
It was foggy to me until I cracked open the pharmacology book a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's good to refresh.
It is good to refresh, and that's one thing the students should always remember. If it's not crystal clear, as one of our professors used to say, if it's not crystal, you need to get that refresher. You need to know the resource to go to.
Yeah, it's part of the battle is finding a good resource to pull up and it's correct.
Yeah, all terminal degrees come with resources.
Yeah. So there's various ARBs in the business, as they say, right?
Exactly.
There's losartan, which I think is probably the most common one, right?
It is. I would call that our prototype for the class.
I'm not trying to quiz you. I just don't know myself. What do you know? The first ARB that was made?
I think it was losartan. I really do. Losartan is probably the first. And if I had to venture a guess, olmesartan is fairly recent. It might have been valsartan after losartan.
Okay. I'm asking you this because back to the ACEs, you were telling me about how captopril was, I think, the prototype ACE for that class.
It was.
So I just figured you might know about the ARBs. So interesting.
There's surprisingly, I didn't see a lot out there on the history of their development. Okay. It's definitely ensconced in Big Pharma's vault of top secret documents.
Yes. So somewhere in that Area 51 level of pharmacy documents. Yeah.
Or it's contained in some dry patent somewhere that I'm just not going to go find.
I don't blame you.
Have you ever read a patent?
No.
I've read several. They're not the easiest thing.
Okay.
And so, for example, from my previous career, you would have a vaccine construct, a modified virus or a protein that was isolated for immunogenicity, or even an antibody. And people would apply for patents, And patents are difficult documents because you have to describe every claim that you're making. Like my vaccine is going to prevent hair loss and impotence, and it's going to make you taller and faster. And all other vaccines that do this are going to be excluded by this patent. And then it goes into the material of the patent, which is the description of the technology or the process, or in some cases, it's literally a schematic, depending on what it is. But they are horribly dry, and I have run across a few.
Yeah, it sounds boring and a headache.
Although there is apparently good money for PharmD JDs to review patents out there.
I was just thinking, I'm sure there's the sort of legal aspect involved.
Oh, yeah.
Reading through that type of shit.
They're written by lawyers, for lawyers, by lawyers, to argue for lawyers, or, to argue over. And then really, that's a way to print money now that I think of it.
Okay. The patent business.
The patent business.
Yeah. So that was for vaccines mostly.
Yeah, but drugs have them too.
But from your experience, it was with vaccines, right?
Yeah, I was traumatized enough reading a vaccine patent that I, have no interest.
Yeah, I don't blame you there, man.
Package inserts are bad enough. Right.
Patent sounds even worse than a package insert.
It is.
That the thing you pull apart that's on the top of the bottle that looks like a map. That thing.
The real question is, who's the company that gets paid to print those?
I don't know.
Because they're all the same. It's all that same flimsy paper, same style of print.
It's like tracing paper with like the tiniest of possible print. Like, what if they made it like a fun package insert to read? Like the prints in like a fun font, like Comic Sans. It's just more lighthearted to go through versus that mouse print. Like scary chemical structures.
Your black box warning has blue highlight in it or something.
Yeah, like some smiley, some emojis.
Oh, it's for the diarrhea, you could use the poop emoji.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways of brightening them up. The way they're made now, they're just like made to be crumpled up in the balls, like that flimsy ass paper.
Yeah.
But package inserts are important. They have important information in there.
As I tell all my pharmacy students, they are not written for you to get information out of. They are government documents.
Exactly.
But you got to know how to mine them for the stuff you need.
Can I say something real quick?
Always.
It's like a digression. Like I was worried.
Isn't that our entire podcast?
I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear the news?
I did not hear the news.
So, not to like damper anybody's evening, the legendary TV host Regis Philbin has passed away at 88.
That's a good run.
Yeah, man. And I remember growing up, like he was on. We always watched
Live
Millionaire. Yeah, man. Were you?
I'm old enough to remember Live with Regis and Kelly.
Okay. See, I remember that one. I'm a Regis and Kelly guy.
Yeah. I remember the Millionaire show. Yeah.
Who wasn't a Regis and Kelly guy, if you think about it?
Kelly always looked emaciated to me. She always looked, now that thinking back of it, she always looked like she needed at least 2 inshores.
Yeah. Well, you know how the camera puts an extra 15 pounds on. She was doing the right thing.
That's what I'm saying.
And Regis saw it.
Oh, yeah. The negative... No, this is not the podcast for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saddened to see that.
Yeah, moving forward, I just wanted to give my respects to Regis.
Right. Media icon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. TV host.
Who's the new millionaire guy?
I don't have cable. I have no idea.
I think it's like Steve. Is it Steve Harvey or something like that?
No, I thought he was the... I thought Steve Harvey was the...
oh, no, he's Family Feud.
He's Family Feud, yeah. And Drew Carey's still running The Price is Right.
Yep, he's on there. Who the heck is the new millionaire guy? Is it? It's probably Jimmy Kimmel or one of those dudes. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about ARBs.
Yeah. We went through did we go through the brand generics?
No, we didn't. We got hung up on who was the first.
Yeah.
So it's either
Regis.
valsartan,
Yes. And
Diovan.
Diovan.
Yeah.
So when we first got out of school, I remember that was brand only, which was,
Right.
I guess, that was 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, I'm coming up on 6 years, so yeah.
Yeah. I remember it was in the square bottle.
Yes.
Diovan.
Diovan.
And they had the Diovan HCT, expensive shit, but now it's generic. Yeah. And unavailable at the moment.
That's right. Hey, we have one patient on the brand Diovan for her allergy issues.
Yeah.
We do. You know who I speak of, and I was shocked when the Diovan bottle showed up.
Who has a set intolerance to one of the excipients in the generic, so has to have brand Diovan.
Yeah.
And the insurance covers it, so why the heck not?
Yeah. Exactly. What the hey? She gets Diovan. We have telmisartan, Micardis.
Yep.
Losartan is Cozar.
Yep, that's a fast-moving one right there.
When in doubt, toss some losartan at them.
That one is packed full in all the automation. Tons of losartan.
And remember, the green losartans are better than the white ones.
More effective.
Yep.
Especially if you have any sort of mental
issue,
paranoia, whatever. It's the.
Oh, I lost your audio.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can. What were you saying? It was the mental issue.
Or the paranoia, there's the blue, the green, the whites, whatever you need, we can try to get them for you.
Exactly. I'm a fan of the green, green dye number 4.
Yeah.
I know my blood pressure goes down when I see the green dye. There is olmesartan.
Yep, Benicar.
Yeah. And then those are the big ones. Those are the ones we really see. A little bit of candesartan or atacand.
Right. But these are the big players. That's the regular lineup there if you're taking notes, anybody. Like those will be on your tests.
Yeah. Speaking of anybody taking notes, when I see you at work next week, I'll have your $5. We did an amazing job. 63 views on the first posting on YouTube. Two Druggists.
We crushed it. People are loving Two Druggists podcast.
Yep,
I think we have 3 followers on the Twitter account, so we're trailblazing up there.
That's right. One of my favorite. Do you ever watch Roadkill?
No. What's that one?
It is by far the best YouTube series ever until they went to Motor Trend. And they would always say, even if they had like 500,000 followers, they would always say, we're blowing up on YouTube. Well, hey, we're blowing up on Twitter. We got
Is it a podcast or like a YouTube show?
It started out as a YouTube project about 8.5 years ago. 2 editors from Hot Rod Magazine had this low budget idea for YouTube. They would buy a car and go on some adventure with it. Like their first show that I saw, they threw a dart at a map of the United States, wound up in middle of nowhere, Texas, bought a car for $600, and then bootlegged it from middle of nowhere, Texas to Los Angeles.
Damn. Sounds pretty cool. It's called Roadkill?
Yeah. Roadkill. Okay.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's each episode's like an adventure like that? Like a different.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's see. I think they're on season 8 now, and there's probably 150 episodes. Most of the older ones are still on YouTube, but the parent company of Hot Rod Magazine said, "Oh wait, this is a gold mine," so they formed Motor Trend on Demand, and now it's all behind a paywall.
Gotcha.
But Finnegan and Freiberger, man, awesomeness. If I could, there are very few guys I would take off and spend a week with, but if I could spend a week with those guys on an adventure, I would.
So they seem like cool dudes, huh?
They drink beer, they eat bad food, they work on cars, and they break a lot of stuff. And it's all paid for.
Hell yeah, dude. That sounds like a lifestyle I could get behind.
The one guy, Finnegan, is so bad, his lifestyle caused him to lose a gallbladder.
That was the chili cheese fries and the booze.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
They sound like it sounds like Drivers, Dine-ins, and Dives, or whatever that show is with Guy.
Yep.
It sounds like
Exactly.
that mixed with like,
Awesome
you know,
cars.
yeah, awesome cars. There you go.
And bullshit repairs on the side of the road, and all sorts of fun stuff. You and the little guy will have to spend some time watching it. Indoctrinate him early.
Roadkill. I'll get him started.
Yeah. This is totally dive.
Yeah, where were we? Let's go over some more drugs, and then we'll,
Yeah.
So we did brand generic.
We did brand generic. We did mechanism of action.
Oh, I got one for you.
Yeah.
So you know how ACEs cause the dry cough?
Yes.
Commonly, if that's an issue, you just change them to the ARB.
Exactly.
Because more or less, they work the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the milligrams, they appear not to be like a one-to-one interchangeable thing.
Clearly
like,
not.
For instance, like the low end lisinopril is like 5 to 10 milligrams, whereas the losartan you'll see like 25 to 50 milligrams. So
Exactly.
that might freak people out, but it's the lower end of the spectrum.
Right.
But you don't get the dry cough. You don't get the bradykinins with the ARBs.
Exactly. And for our students out there, remember, just because lisinopril 10 is equivalent to losartan 50, remember, you have different mechanism of action, you have different potency, you have different binding affinity for those receptors.
Yep.
Another good thing is ARBs are very well tolerated for most people, better than ACEs.
Not a whole heck of a lot of side effects other than your generic dizziness, low blood pressure like feeling that your body acclimates to.
Yep.
That's a good perk of them.
It is definitely a perk. A clinical pearl, I can't talk, a clinical pearl, as it were, at least losartan and some of the other ACE or ARBs are indicated for renal protection in our diabetic patients.
Is that pretty much the exact idea?
Yeah.
Like why you would put a diabetic on an ACE, same applies for ARBs?
Yep, okay. Same applies. There's not as much data on the ARBs, but it should stop that pre-renal azotemia stuff that happens with the spilling of the protein right. Urea.
So though it's not, I guess, totally 100% agreed on like an ACE would be, it's a good option if you can't tolerate an ACE.
It is, if you can't tolerate. I would postulate the guidelines say it's better than nothing.
Yeah, which is always a good go-to, bend the rules a little bit.
Exactly. Or as Captain Jack Sparrow would say, it's guidelines, really, just guidelines.
I remember this one time, I was really young when we watched Pirates of the Caribbean for the first time. Like, could you imagine a kid being afraid of that movie? Like, my little brother was scared as shit to go see Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you think that would be a scary movie for a child?
Yeah, it scared the crap out of one of my kids the first time around.
Okay, now I feel bad because it was like a running joke with my family that like my brother was afraid to go see it. It's such an awesome movie, though. Okay.
No, the initial scene in the very first movie where they're going through the fog and they're seeing like the bits of the ship go by, totally freaked my 6-year-old out.
What Pirates of the Caribbean had that octopus guy? He had like an octopus for a beard.
Oh, that was Davy Jones' Locker. It wasn't at World's End. That was after that one. I don't remember which one that was.
Have you been following that Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing? Like
No.
That whole divorce? Oh my God, dude. It's the most hilarious thing. It's basically like originally like Johnny was saying like he was being like physically abused by her, and then on stop. You're supposed to be in support of Captain Jack Sparrow.
I am in support of Captain Jack Sparrow.
But anyway, he was claiming that his wife was abusing him. So, that whole thing transpired. And I guess months later on Twitter, she would post pictures of like him passed out and like lines of coke and booze and stuff all over the house. It's a mess, man. Captain Jack really, he's in a bad spot right now. We got to pray for him.
We do. But as I recall, that is not new for Johnny Depp. He's had those problems throughout his whole career.
Yeah, man. Anybody that can successfully like play Edward Scissorhands, you got to have some problems.
Now that movie freaked me the fuck out. I
That's a
did
weirdo,
not
dude.
like Edward Scissorhands.
But he was like a sensitive boy. Like he had scissors for
couldn't.
hands, but
Yeah, right. He had scissors for hands. What's that? He couldn't even take a leak by himself.
he was misunderstood. Like the retail pharmacists are misunderstood.
That is true. We are definitely misunderstood.
We have hearts of gold too.
We do, and we have lots of drugs.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Back to this.
Back to this. Okay, so we covered the mechanism. We covered the cough, no cough. What else?
I'm trying to think of some side effects other than the cough thing.
Well, I mean, hypotension and dizziness can happen when you start piling on other blood pressure meds as well.
Right. It's that additive effect. A lot of times, if you're not controlled by one, you add another, and you get that sudden, drop that causes you to feel funny.
Hyperkalemia.
Yes.
Hyper K. Just like the ACEs, the ARBs can cause hyperkalemia because somewhere down that pathway you're inhibiting proximal tubule dumping of potassium.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have electrolyte imbalances, that could be an issue.
Yeah, it's a monitoring parameter. Always
it is.
Always
BMP.
Look at the potassium.
Get that BMP. Bill for it.
Do you know if ARBs like the ACEs cause similar, like acute kidney injuries, things like that? I think that falls in the same category.
I think it does. I think if you have pre-existing renal disease, that can happen. Let me consult my handy dandy reference here. I highlighted some stuff in preparation for this program.
That's always good.
It is.
Not to throw you off, but I want to say it's a similar idea. Like if you take an NSAID with it or whatever, you can get
Yes. I agree. It wasn't percolating through the brain. I see where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about ACEs and ARBs, my brain always tends to tick over to heart failure use and blocking that renin pathway.
But both are very useful for that. They're good. There's good mortality data for ARBs as well, like there is for ACEs, I believe, right?
Well, there's at least symptom control, and I think you're right. I think it does prolong the process. There's some evidence that ARBs like ACEs will reduce left ventricle hypertrophy and hypertension. Losartan and irbesartan have been shown to have some efficacy in diabetic nephropathy.
Mm-hmm.
Candesartan and telmisartan, however, the evidence is mixed. So not all ARBs are created equal.
Which two were those again? Candesartan, you said?
Candesartan and irbesartan are not necessarily effective in diabetic nephropathy.
Okay.
So they're not going to preserve kidney function.
Okay. See, I don't know about that a whole lot. Is that like is there not enough studies to say that they are good, or has there been like a study that said that they kind of harm the people in a way, they kind of worsen the mortality?
Sadly, my current reference does not give me that information, and I would not want to postulate incorrect information.
If there's any listeners out there that knows this,
like my pharmacy student should look that up.
No, honestly, email us in and we'll address it because, oh man, you know what we forgot to do?
I have no idea. The disclaimer.
The disclaimer, yeah.
Oh, I have a great disclaimer.
Okay, go for it.
Doctors Matt and Ben and the Two Druggists podcast are not responsible for your misuse, misunderstanding, or general idiocy when it comes to the information that we're providing. This is for education and information only, and you should seek the help of a qualified pharmacist or other medical professional before making treatment decisions or, again, an idiotic decision.
Right.
We are not responsible for your idiocy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, eventually I'll write it down.
So I'm trying to think.
And then I'll speed it up and we can play it at the end, just like in the drug commercials.
Like really fast.
Like really fast at the end. This drug is not intended to be. Yeah, we could do that. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
I just feel bad for people that are listening that are actually trying to like take something home, like usefulness wise from this. Let me pull up some information of anything I've written down.
Okay.
So I was asking Cam, for you listeners, my wife who works in a hospital setting, if there's any injectable ARBs. I don't think that there is.
I don't think there are.
I think they all come oral.
Yes.
So if you're dealing with an ARB, I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure it's all an oral tablet, something you would take.
And I'm pretty sure there's no commercial liquids either.
All right, I got something I can go over here.
Okay.
So with ACEs, it's not something that I guess happens to most people, but it's something to be concerned with. It's the angioedema. There's people that are more at risk than others. If you have a history of it, Black people have more of a sensitivity to have a sort of reaction.
Right.
I think usually when you begin an ACE, which is similar to the ARB, it happens pretty quickly. Almost, I think, when you initially begin it, up to like a week or so.
Right.
So it's something that typically onsets pretty quickly. ARBs tend to not. There is some people that have angioedema with the ARBs,
right,
but it's not as frequently as the ACE inhibitors. And if you have trouble remembering that, it's the same mechanism as the dry cough. So the way the ACE-Is work, they break down the angiotensin converting enzyme. They also they inhibit what breaks down bradykinins. So while being on the ACEs, you have an upregulation of the bradykinins.
Right.
That's what causes your angioedema.
Oh.
So it's the bradykinins causes that vasodilation and swelling. So ARBs have nothing to do with that. So when you initiate an ARB, you don't have that upregulation in bradykinin. Therefore, you don't have that mechanism of angioedema. So it's a far lesser percentage of people that are affected by this. Right. It still can happen. It's less likely being on an ARB than you would be taking an ACE to have that sort of reaction.
So our students out there should remember that angioedema is different than anaphylaxis.
I'm getting someone is giving me some help here too also. Can we bring up maybe the valsartan recall?
Yeah, let's talk about crappy drugs.
That's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's not just valsartan though. It's other meds outside of like this whole class of drugs, right?
Right. But it started with valsartan.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about that?
Sure. So 6-8 months ago was the first valsartan recall. Has it been that long?
I wanted to say, I can't remember what the first drug was. It may have been valsartan. I think you're right, but I want to say it was over a year ago was when this thing started.
I was a little short. Okay. So there was a recall on valsartan, and at first it was like one generic manufacturer, and it was for a contaminant of NMDA, which is nitromethylamine or nitrosamine.
Something diethylamine carcinogen.
Yeah, carcinogen. And that carcinogen was found in the finished API or active pharmaceutical ingredient. So any pill that got the active pharmaceutical ingredient, valsartan, had some of that contaminant in it. So FDA started, I guess the FDA picked it up in their quality checks. And, there's no real safe minimum for a carcinogen. So they had to pull these drugs off the market. And that started the ARB roulette, ARB of the week.
Yep.
First it was valsartan. Then as valsartan dropped, then everybody went to losartan. Losartan went on shortage. Losartan went on shortage. Then Valsartan went on shortage.
Right.
And then Valsartan came back for a while.
So it's the whole supply demand chain.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing the same issue. It's not just ARB drugs like Valsartan.
No.
Like, is metformin having that same problem right now?
Right now, metformin ERs are having it. And
Just
there was
ERs.
Yeah. There's one pharmacy in Massachusetts that their whole shtick is, we're going to test the drug before we dispense it. And so they buy it and send it to their independent testing lab. And until it comes back, they don't dispense it. And they published a list of metformin generics that have the NMDA contaminant.
Okay.
And you would be surprised. It's all over the place.
So they're doing that test before anything else. They're just
Mm-hmm.
whatever, if that contaminant is in there.
Well, exactly. But it's interesting. That particular pharmacy, their whole shtick is, we're going to test the drugs coming in foreign for potency and purity before we dispense it.
Okay.
And actually, it's funny because they're a mail order independent that's doing this.
Interesting.
So yeah, somebody in Maryland or North Carolina can call this pharmacy, send them scripts, and they'll mail them verified drugs.
Okay. Well, that's an angle there for you.
And they'll bill your insurance, I think.
Of course they'll do that.
Of course they will. And take a beating on the reimbursement. But that's, we don't want to talk about that.
No, we're just getting into the facts.
That's right. So next big drug to have big problems with NMDA was Zantac.
Right, the ranitidines.
Yeah. And Zantac has now been yanked completely by FDA because nobody can make it without that contaminant. Mm-hmm. So I have a theory about that, and that theory was published in the New York Times, so I guess really it's not a theory. I read it somewhere. It's foreign generic companies change the production process, the chemical synthesis for the API, and that's why you're seeing these contaminants.
That's exactly what I kind of saw it as too, or heard of it as too.
Yep.
It's just, you get this outsourcing of the drug manufacturers. It's a byproduct of their, however which way they're manufacturing it. I'm not saying they're doing it wrong or saying they're doing it as a more cost-effective strategy, but whatever way they're doing it is causing this issue to happen to a lot of generics.
It is. There's something called GMP, mm-hmm. Good Manufacturing Practice, and those companies that are offshore is a nice euphemism, aren't being held to good manufacturing standards. They're not doing the quality control. Depending on what media source you read, some of them are doing falsification of documents, falsification of quality assurance. So, it really does make it a difficult thing to have confidence in the products coming into the country.
Right. And on a counterpoint to that, you don't have much confidence because we're seeing the same issue being repeated over and over again. But at the same time, we're getting cheap generics in.
Yep.
You see these products having this issue with a carcinogen. Would you rather risk having high blood pressure or a more damaging sort of disease and not take your medication because you're afraid it's manufactured outside of the country? No, I think you should still take your medication.
Exactly.
But, this sort of thing is starting to unfold, and we're seeing more of it because the industry is so regulated.
It would be interesting if, the pharmacy customers, demanded their drugs from certain places.
Right.
Yeah, I myself have not run into that, but I have heard rumors of patients calling and demanding drugs from certain locations. I've
dealt with customers that want only generics made in the United States. I'm sure you have.
I have, I have heard other things, but I have not dealt with that particular individual.
You might luck out, and surprisingly, there are some stuff that you just pull off the shelf, and it's like a manufacturer wherever, New Jersey. You're like, oh, okay, that was an easy A.
Yeah.
Whereas you have to do some more research and find out, how to please this certain guy that wants what he wants.
Yeah. There's, in our town, Cadista is making pharmaceutical generics right here in our town.
I just learned about that not long ago. I didn't know we had a company out here.
Yeah, we have generic drug manufacturing. So, but still they're importing the API. Oh, beer number 2. All right.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
The Baltimore beer. I think the Orioles won today. I think they beat Boston. So I did not have time to check any news. Yeah.
It was a pretty rough Saturday.
Yeah. Mine wasn't cake either, but I was done at 2 versus you at 4. So
yeah, I was checking prescriptions right up to 3:59.
It's easy to get backed up dealing with some stuff, man.
It is. But Cadista, I'll use their name. Cadista is still importing the API. They're just manufacturing tablets here, and I applaud that. Now, if we can only start making some API here, that's good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty killer.
That would be killer. But it puts us pharmacists and medical professionals in a tough light, because what we have to work with has a tainted image.
Right. I mean, people see news of this sort of thing. It's on Facebook or Twitter, and they come to us like we're scamming them. We don't know about this stuff until we get a notice from our wholesaler or whoever.
Right.
That the stuff is tainted. Yes. And I understand people don't want to take it. I wouldn't want to either, but we don't know about it.
Exactly. We have zero control over what tablets appear on our shelf. Not a zip.
Nope. Nor does the wholesaler that they have to sell us.
Exactly. There's another point I was going to make about the whole ranitidine, metformin, valsartan. I think as we test more drugs, we're going to see a lot more contaminants.
Yeah, I think we're on the horizon of more of a regulatory upgrade, I guess, as some of this stuff starts to unfold, because it's the same issue over and over again that keeps happening.
It is. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result.
Right. So,
and I personally, I think our customers, the American public, should demand that the way the system work, if a pure drug, an unadulterated drug for you pharmacy students out there, because that NMDA contaminant is adulteration of product.
You should go over that, Matt. The adulteration and misbranding thing.
Oh yeah.
Do I have time for that? Is that too far off topic?
Let's cover that in a different show.
That sounds good. Okay.
That could be its own little discussion and nuances to that. But my very quick point is this: if a bottle of 1,000 prednisone from a generic company offshore is $10, and a bottle of prednisone from an American company, or a I don't care if it's the Americans or a European,
right?
If it has
Canadians,
the right quality specs, if that's $15, there should be a buffer in the system to take that up, and the payers should recognize that quality. That's about as close as I'm going to get to that topic.
I think that's the way you said it's good enough.
I think so. I don't think we'll get sued.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Besides, I don't have anything for them to take. They can have my student loans, though.
Someone smarter than me has given me more content.
Excellent.
So, clinical pearl for another ARB.
Yes.
Candesartan, for anybody that's wondering. It's a use for Atacand or candesartan, as I'm being told. So like the ACEs, the ACEs, there's like an off-label recommendation for migraine prevention. Basically, you lower the blood pressure, open up the blood vessels around the brain. It prevents migraines. Well, candesartan's good for that. It's good for treating migraines because it can cross the blood-brain barrier, whereas the other ARBs do not. So that's a nice trivia. That's a nice trivia question to remember.
That is going to be a Jeopardy question.
Candesartan blood-brain barrier.
That's right. Candesartan blood-brain barrier. So why aren't more migrainers on it?
I don't know. I guess it's something that it's not studying enough, or maybe there's a fringe of people that do get success from it, whereas most people do not. And they, tend to go with the Imitrex or whatever else, the propanolol.
I don't like the ergotamines or the triptans.
They're not.
Those
they
aren't
have
great
some
drugs.
Issues.
Yeah. A lot of people have bad reactions to the triptans, the Imitrexes, the razatriptans, all those guys. They'll come up later.
Yeah, we'll get to them.
We'll get to them. But the ARBs are a great group. They're fast movers. Losartan's a big one. Valsartan's a great one. Irbesartan's pretty well used.
They're definitely good to know, and to know the terminology for, the brand generic for them. You see them so much. As far as availability goes, once you start working, you'll be making those substitutions. So it's good to kind of gauge the strengths of each one of them and the names so you can fit them in.
Telmisartan is not often used. Occasionally Micardis is on there, but
yeah, I'd agree with that. You don't see it a whole lot. It's weird because that one, from when I see it, it's in like blister cards. You ever seen that?
It is, and I looked on the package, and that goes back to that liable to atmospheric moisture breaking it down.
Okay.
So remember, students, there are two things that will kill a drug faster than well, I don't really have a good analogy. It's heat and water. Hydrolysis and thermal breakdown. Two things that kill drugs quick.
So it's important to look at the containers or the packages to see if it should be stored in the original container, because they're packaged like so to keep them safe from the elements.
So it's not a good idea to break them out and put them in a bottle. No.
Well,
that's another good show. We could talk about drugs only in the original packaging.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Pradaxa. Certain HIV stuff. We'll get to it.
Yeah, the HIV stuff.
We'll get you students covered.
I did have some input from a second pharmacy student, and he definitely was interested in study guides.
Okay.
He was less than thrilled with some of the stuff he was currently using.
Okay. What was he sort of looking for? Like outlines, flashcards?
I think it sounded like he wanted something like a one slider, like one slide on each drug.
Because that's what Top 200 is, I guess.
Yeah, really.
The basics. We could do
basics. We could do that.
If we can, we're working on Matt's idea is to get like a third image of like a text, like a PowerPoint screen or a schematic. So
yeah,
hopefully we can get that up at some point.
The dream is, if you've ever seen the YouTube videos where you hear the guys talking and then it gets drawn out on the screen on the digital whiteboard. That would be great.
That'd be sweet.
I have no idea how to do that.
We're rookies. We'll figure it out.
Hopefully this podcast is as entertaining as the first.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some support.
Yeah.
Did we get any emails?
No, not a single one.
All right. Well,
no hate mail either.
Well, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
You see that?
I can see that. Two Druggist podcasts.
Yep, at gmail.com. We have a Twitter, Two Druggists. Send us hate mail. We'll address haters accordingly.
Yes, we will. Fan mail will be much appreciated.
Yeah. We can get people on the cast. Can we do that if people are interested?
I think we can. We could have pharmacy students call in.
Yeah, with questions.
Or Zoom in, and we can let them in at certain points and give them questions.
Do you have an IG we can plug? Is there an IG account?
There is it is Two Druggists on Instagram.
Okay.
There's not a lot of content there, but we've got the multimedia spectrum.
Yeah, we need to get on
covered.
We need to get on TikTok next. Yeah. All you hyped millennials out there, get on TikTok and look for two druggists.
I keep seeing TikTok. I don't know what the fuck it is.
It's all the rage, dude. Like, it's all the rage.
Right, I got that. I know it's video clips,
I still don't understand it fully.
Neither do I.
But,
I even downloaded the app on my phone and tried playing with it the other day, and I'm like, it kept showing me random videos, and I was like,
it's confusing.
It is.
Have you heard of Cameo?
What?
Have you heard of Cameo?
No, is that like TikTok?
It's not really. It's the thing celebrities use. So like if I'm Liam Hemsworth,
that is associated with Instagram, or is
I don't
it
know.
Twitter?
I just know about it just from hearing about it. Like if I'm The Rock, I would sign up on Cameo. It's a platform, and like I could be like, oh, The Rock, I'm a huge fan of you. Like I'm gonna pay you $1,000 or however much he charges to wish Matt a happy birthday. And like you could have an account and he'll call you or whatever, be like, hey Matt, it's The Rock, like happy birthday, like from The Rock, on the site called Cameo. So we could get on that is what I'm getting at. True Druggists on Cameo.
Yeah. I will be paid. If somebody wants to pay me to talk about drugs to them and help them along for $1,000, I'm your guy.
Yeah, you can call Dr. Ben and Matt anytime.
That's right.
On Cameo, and
we'll split the grand.
We'll remind you the brand generics
and give you what clinical pearls we have.
Yes. All right.
And pirated study material from the internet.
Yeah. You're not supposed to say that part.
Well, they don't know if it's true or not. That's the beauty of this thing.
We're being facetious.
We are, which is part of the whole point of doing a podcast. This is what we do at work.
Yeah, basically.
We stand around and be facetious under our breaths.
Which is why send us questions, send us anything. If you're interested to talking to us on here,
Yeah, if you want to come on, have some questions. We'll do our best to answer them in a roundabout and vague manner.
Yeah.
In the third half of the show.
I think I'm fully to blame for this. We'll try not to talk about Johnny Depp as much on the next one.
No, and I won't talk about half the crap I talked about. I'll have new crap.
Yeah. So
I know you said Cam played it at work. How many people listened to that?
Cam, how many people at work would you say were listening to the podcast when you played it?
I mean, a few people knew about it. 5.
So maybe 5. Like she had playing in the background. Great. And people were chuckling at some of the stuff.
Yeah. So if you're a preceptor and you subscribe to our podcast, you should make your students watch it.
Yeah, it'd be a good assignment.
It would. So not only could you have them learn about the drug class.
I have students to speak. I'll make them listen.
Yeah, Cam just said she'll make the other preceptor students listen.
That's great. They could give us constructive feedback on what we can improve.
Yeah, they can break down everything we said wrong.
That's right, and send it back to us.
And what they think about Johnny Depp.
Just the students out there, if you send us a reference, if you send us drugs.com, we are going to burn you in effigy.
Yeah.
Verbally.
We're not afraid to burn you. We're not afraid to call out haters. We know who the haters are.
That's true. We have a short but growing list.
Yeah. It's because they want to be a third druggist, but that's not going to happen.
No, this is a 2 druggist deal.
Two.
Dose.
Right.
Dose druggists.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right, man. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. This has been way too long.
Yeah.
And way too meandering.
We could go all night.
We could. Once we get to Joe Rogan level, we could.
Yeah, once Joe Rogan tweets at us, you won't hear from us anymore. You'll just have to look at Joe.
I didn't think it was tweeting. I thought it was twitting.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Once Joe twits at us, we'll be too far above you all haters.
That's right.
So all right, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode of the Two Druggists podcast. We'll be back next week talking about drugs and other random shit for your entertainment and education. Remember, twodruggistpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at Two Druggists. Instagram at 2Druggists, and probably not on TikTok for a good while. Thank you and good night.
Good night, fans.
Good night.